Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Relentless Pursuit titled Save Me. And if we switch over to here, it's good to be hearing more of Relentless Pursuit and their music. It's going to, if we have a look through the description for this track here, suicidal thoughts, never-ending hate, closing up my mind to the hope that is my sanity. I think these are the lyrics. So we're going to be discussing some sort of dark subject matter here, but I nonetheless think at the same time, it's important to talk about stuff like this because this is something that a lot of people have to deal with, and we just got to give them all the help they can get. But we're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Let's go. Relentless Pursuit presents Save Me. Hell of a pulse to those kicks, right? Is that a major tendency to try to that arpeggio with the pads or the synths there? I mean, it's fierce with those alternate pick parts. And great use of blast. Well, it's not blast beats like gallops, isn't it? It's a that kind of stuff. Join a variety of percussive groups. This dynamic range. It's nice for things to come down a little bit. Having things the same intensity all the time can be a little bit sort of dynamically overwhelming. And the sound design as well, things going around the sides of the stereo field is kind of dope as well. It's quite the juxtaposition tonally from the blast beats and the gallops we had with the growls and everything like that earlier. I think it's nice to have the variation between the clean vocals and the screams. Suits the mood of it, the crying out for help. It's a wall of sound, isn't it? Kind of reminds me of a song my system are down at this point with the triplet grooves.
Dismember
It's ferocious. I'm wondering how to interpret this one. Relentless Pursuit, Promise and Creation. I assume that's the upcoming album. So, if we get into the conclusion, if people are interested in reading through the lyrics, first off, there are lyrics. I think those are the lyrics in the description of this video, but I think that this track is about people sort of suffering from suicidal ideation, issues of mental health and stuff like that, wanting an escape, the suffering and struggle they're going through, begging for an escape from it by whatever means necessary. The visual sense of this audiovisual experience is very, very strong. The contrast between the vocal styles with the cleans and the growly vocals, they made sense too. I think texturally and tonally for the styles of performance we had with the instruments involved at those points. Ultimately, the story experienced different shifts and turns with different angles explored, and I think they made sense. It was a journey. The vocals over top of it, I think the melodies that we had in that middle section were really pleasant to listen to. I like the fact that we were going for a control of our head and chest voice there. We seem relatively comfortable within that range. There wasn't a whole lot of ornamentation in there, but I don't think that would have necessarily have benefited things here to have overcomplicated the style of, performance who were given there vocally. So I'm glad that we kept things relatively minimalist there. I think that we harmonized with some of the rougher vocal fry-ish patterns there, which made it sound thicker and fuller, especially when we had so much else going on in those heavier parts with the guitar, bass, drums, and other sort of synth bits. There was a lot of dynamic range to the way this was written and recorded, so you could allow more space for the vocals to sit there in that quieter part but for them, especially with them not being as melodic with the growls, to still stand out with the chugs and the blast beats and everything like that. It's well done. The track at just over 4 minutes, I think, was well composed. I think that when you've got a vocal performance that makes sense with the lyrics, that's all well and good, but you need the rest of the track to slot together in a way that is fitting for the mood and the purpose. And the combination of guitars, bass, drums, and synth parts we had in this was satisfying. I've heard similar tones and articulations within Relentless Pursuit's music before. It's a comfortable place, I think, that we were at the moment, alongside what I mentioned about the vocals. We had verses and, should I say verses? We definitely had stanzas. It could well have been through composed with like the growls and the cleaning the growls, but I think we revisited some of the earlier lines we sung in the first part and the last third, which is great. It was nice to kind of circle back to that, to kind of allow a bit of sort of outro context and to kind of try and connect the dots. The guitar parts with the variation with the different rhythms going between triplets and 16th with the chugs was great. I think that it had a great sense of intensity and depth to it, and it was fair sounding and was nice and tight with what was happening with the drum patterns there, the drums of which had really I liked the variation with going between like double time, half time, and normal time grooves there. Comfortable at the tempo we were at, knowing when to sort of step away into quieter bits to allow things to be a bit more sort of floaty. Completely going balls to the wall in this bit near the end, where there was just a wall of sound with just immense pressure with the way those double kicks were coming through. The double kicks very quick. I think that, I don't know, like it might have been nice to have a bit more variation with the tom work, but I think the fundamentals with the kick, snares, and cymbals were handled well here, and I understand why we focused on that with the rhythm guitar parts as well. It was nice. We could have also potentially have had a separate instrumental section here, but if we were wanting a more straightforward piece that focused more on the storytelling, then I get why we did things the way we did. The bass parts that we had here, there was a bass resonance there. I'm assuming there was. If there wasn't, there's a hell of a lot of sub bass coming from somewhere. It was good just to have that kind of sit and simmer and stack in the frequency spectrum and highlight the root notes and those zeros and the chugs. They were good. And the main color that we had within the arrangement, aside from the vocals and the clean parts, was these synth parts, which were like a synth brass or something like that. And we had an interesting way of articulating a sort of a parallel majorish, unexpected resonance there that it kind of looped really effortlessly back into itself. and offered a sense of uncertainty there. I think if it had been straight to the minor triads, it might have been a bit too dire sounding and on the nose. So I think it's cool that we did that. It was nice also to have elements of the arrangement not just sit in the steno, but also go around the sides of the stereo field and really fill the things out, especially when in that midsection most of the focus was on the center of the stereo field, with the double-tracked rhythm guitars coming back on the ends and as well as being there in the beginnings. It really fleshed things out nicely and made the use of both the frequency spectrum and the dynamic and the stereo field there. All in all, the theme, it did sound like we were almost having a spiritual experience in the middle there, trying to sort of find a higher power and begging them to stop. Like we were just taking a moment to sort of, where there was peace and quiet, sort of try and find a solution there, however way we could, a respite from what we were going through, with just the chaos on either side, almost like an iteration, a constant loop of struggle and the quiet part, thinking things are going to be better and then things getting worse. Not to be too sort of more how do I say it? I don't want to be too sort of depressing about it, but as someone, not to, it's not really something I should probably be talking about here, but I've struggled with depression and stuff like that, and I know what it's like to have to go back and forth between those two. So I mean, I suppose I can relate to what's going on in the track to a level where I understand the intensity and how brutal and vicious it was with that. I think it worked. The tone great, had kind of an ABA kind of thing going on there, and it made sense, and the theme had a good connection to the story that was being told, and the vocals suited that as well, so good job. The studio recording, mixing and mastering for the most part I was happy with. I think that we were confident, especially in the earlier sections, with how we placed the double-tracked rhythm guitars, the bass, and the drums. I am happier with this stuff that's come out from Relentless Pursuit more recently. It just seems like we've really got the hang of the fundamentals there. It almost sounded like things were getting a little bit too pushed in the limiting late stages of the chain, and that part just after the sort of the cleanish quote-unquote section there, with how sort of like it was again that wall of noise. But if that was deliberate for that re-entry into the chaos, then that's cool. The vocals had presence. There was use of things like with automation and just general placement around the stereo field that made the song sound nice and wide when it needed to. Things were reasonably well niched in the stereo field. There might have been a couple of resonant frequencies in certain parts, such as the kicks having a bit of a sub-bass kind of oomph to them, but that's okay. We might have just wanted them to be a bit more heavy there. It's not like the guitars were sort of mucking around in that part either. It's okay. There was dynamic range. Things came down a bit quieter in that midsection than they were in the beginning, so there was nice change there, contrast where, and then finally it was nice and loud without pumping. So I mean, effectively, actually no, I take that back. There was some pumping, but I've already spoken about that. But look, this is my review of this track from an act named Relentless Pursuit, titled Save Me, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.